John Blake presents Peaky Blinders: The Legacy, written by Chinn and read by Jonathan Keeble, with the introduction and afterword read by the author.
Introduction. The Peaky Blinders Legacy. The roaring 20s of the popular imagination is an exuberant, joyous, fashionable, and above all, youthful decade encapsulated by the self-indulgent bright young things. A mixture of rich aristocrats and bohemians disdainful of social norms, they delighted in their wild behaviour, spectacular parties, expensive cocktails, drug-taking, and outrageous excesses. This impression of the 1920s is infused with the riches and privilege of a tiny minority. Yet the decade was an exciting one for many more who relished newfound freedoms. Released from their stays and hoops, young women, known as flappers, went out more confidently in skirts shortened to the knees, and with bobbed hair covered trendily by bell-shaped cloche hats worn low over the forehead. Smoking and drinking like young men, they too embraced the jazz craze, the dance craze, the cinema craze, the Charleston craze, and all the other crazes of the decade. As for the middle-aged middle class, the 1920s may not have been roistering, but they were pleasurable. Growing in numbers and securing their employment, they could afford to buy modern semi-detached houses in the suburbs and to spend their disposable income on the cars that took them to and from work and on day trips. Yet millions faced a harsher reality. Britain was riven by gender and class inequalities. Working-class women may have gained the vote in 1928, but they were far from equal in education, health, the workplace and opportunities. Huge numbers of working-class people still lived in badly built and overcrowded housing, in polluted neighbourhoods. And working-class men were much more likely than others to suffer the indignities and hopelessness of unemployment. The older industries that had propelled Britain into industrial supremacy were in rapid decline, and the closure of cotton mills, ironworks, coal mines and shipyards devastated whole communities across Britain. In a land of plenty, unhappily, the only abundant thing in the lives of the poor was poverty. The roaring 20s may have been a party time for a few, but for countless numbers, it was a hard and hungry time. These grim realities are ignored in dramatised versions of the decade, which are also deeply affected by Hollywood's portrayals of jazz-age America, with its mobsters and their moles, singers, dancers, bootleggers, decadent socialites, speakeasies, shootouts and escapades. Gangsters in particular have become ingrained in the popular consciousness as a peculiarly 1920s American phenomenon. But more recently, a stylish, peak-capped and charismatic British version has arisen through the acclaimed television series Peaky Blinders. These gangsters take their name from real Peaky Blinders, who also wore flat caps. But unlike their fictional counterparts, they were neither well-dressed nor alluring. Vicious thugs, they had made Birmingham notorious as one of the most violent cities in Britain, not in the 1920s, but in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Belonging to numerous street gangs, they revelled in fighting each other, attacking the police, and preying upon the decent majority of the poor amongst whom they lived. As explored in Peaky Blinders, the real story, they disappeared before the First World War, thanks to stronger policing, sterner sentences for violent crime, and the provision of youth and sports clubs for lads. Yet though their reign of ruffianism was ended in Birmingham, they passed on a violent legacy, because men who had been Peaky Blinders sparked the first major gangland war in Britain. Belonging to a loose combination of villains known as the Birmingham Gang, by 1920 they controlled the pickpocketing of racegoers and the blackmailing of bookmakers on most of England's racecourses. Such criminality was lucrative, and the Birmingham Gang's dominance was quickly challenged in the south by London's Sabini Gang. The resulting racecourse war of the spring and summer of 1921 was a new and shocking phenomenon. Previously, street gangs within one city had brawled with each other simply to assert which was the hardest. Now, two gangs of criminals from different cities clashed
Sample complete. Ready to continue?